From the thong-wearing beaches of Miami, Florida, to the flannel-wearing ski bunnies of Whistler, BC, this is the Qualk Show with your host, Carol Rosher.
Good evening and welcome to the Qualk Show and happy Saturday night. On tonight's show, we are going to be discussing I made it through the birth canal. I wasn't pleased with how I grew. You don't know how wrong that feels till it happens to you. I was sad, I was blue, didn't know what I could do. Then I found someone. Yeah, I found out there was much I could do. The wrong gender. Hey! Right from my very first breath. The wrong gender. Don't need these breasts on my chest. The wrong gender. Turn this outie in. The wrong gender, the wrong gender, the wrong gender, oh yeah. Let's meet tonight's panel. Sin, we have Sin, Sincerely, as the screen states. Sincerely is a mom to 2 teenagers, bless her heart. Hallie is a surrogate as well as mama to a 6-year-old beautiful little girl. Next we have Heidi, mommy to a 2.5-year-old as well as a grown stepson. Next in line we have Stephanie, mama to a 4-year-old as well as an infant. So she's super busy. And later on tonight we are going to have a special guest joining us. You know, this is a live show, and sometimes shit happens, and our guest has not arrived yet. So we're going to keep rolling here. Keep in mind that we fully intend on having a transgender advocate on the show this evening to take part in all of the things that we're going to be discussing tonight. So, you know, as we go through hot flashes, things of that nature, keep in mind that we really wanted to have her point of view on the show as well.
And just a quick note, it is not our special guest's fault that she's not here yet.
No,
someone in production got the time wrong. So.
No. You know what? That's one of the things about being an international live show, and we are the first talk show of our kind to try to attempt this. And every once in a while, you're going to screw up the time zone that somebody's coming to you from. So this is a lesson to be learned on our part. Note to self, get the time right. And second note to self, get a phone number of your guest that's going to be on the show. And don't just fly on social media, because if they're not logged on, you can't reach them.
The more you know.
Yeah, exactly. How was everybody's week? Like, you know, did anybody do anything fun this week? I did. Go ahead, tell me what you did this week, Hallie.
With my work, we actually have a Pride committee, like a Pride board, and we are responsible for bringing together the community as well as planning 3 Pride parades, or being the planner for the sponsorship of 3 Pride parades in my area within like a 2-hour radius.
Wow.
So we got to plan that, and it was super fun, and it was totally gay, and then we all went to a karaoke room, and we had a great time. I almost got into a fight with the HR lady. That was interesting.
Not a good plan. I have talked with an HR lady before, and it will not end well for you. I promise.
Well, she wouldn't even tell me that.
Cut you down in every direction. You will not be able to wipe your ass the wrong way without being written up for something, okay?
You should probably bring chocolates on Monday.
Yeah,
you should probably bring chocolates on Monday.
Exactly. So I have a question, Hallie. So you said that you have your particular company's Pride float going to 3 different cities within a 2.5-hour period. So this gay float with the balloons and the streamers and all this shit is traveling the highway in between cities on that day.
Well, let me classify. I work for Wells Fargo, so
Shout
we
out
have
Wells
this.
Fargo for having Pride Committee.
Yeah, they're
Yay,
pretty
Wells
awesome.
Fargo.
So we actually have to, and they're 3 separate days, thank God. But we have to order a stagecoach. We have to order horses. It is a process to get the full Wells Fargo stagecoach and horses there. It's amazing, but
So you're
it's a
going to have
process.
dykes on horses instead of dykes on bikes at this particular float then.
Boom, dykes on stagecoaches.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Horse on horses.
Yes.
Babes on bovines.
I love it. I love it. That's a total shout out to Wells Fargo and any other company that takes the initiative to start such a committee as that.
Absolutely.
Sin, how was your week?
My week was pretty uneventful. I worked from home a little bit because that's what I do nowadays. Got my hair cut, which is good. I'm much more comfortable in this skin.
Styling tonight.
Yeah.
Fans.
When I say I got my hair cut, I mean about 20 minutes before it was time to go on air, I went in the bathroom with the clippers and said, "Fuck this shit, I'm chopping it off."
Yes.
So,
Nice.
which is typically what I do. And it works for me. I feel good. So.
I love it. Steph, how's the new job going?
Dude, I started a new job this week.
Yay!
Let me tell you something. Going to work within 10 minutes, coming home, taking a crap on lunch, watching a little Judge Judy, and meditating. Fantastic. Loved
I
it.
love it.
My week was fantastic. Marty! Marty's here!
You are amazing, Marnie. Thank you so much for giving me that email. We were just telling the viewers that this is a learning lesson for us in getting the time zones right when we're booking.
Yeah.
Right?
It's because the producer was starting a new day job. Maybe a full-time job someday. Won't have to worry about it.
Thank you so much for joining us unexpectedly sooner than you thought, Marnie. I really appreciate that.
It's not a problem. So you're gonna have to excuse the. I'm just trying to figure out how to put this thing properly, but we're good.
Yeah,
we're good. I'm glad to be
It's
here.
beautiful, and it's totally fine. You have great glasses on, life is good.
Yeah, exactly. So without further ado, this is Marnie. She is a pioneer in transgender issues. She lectures at universities and colleges. She is a vocal advocate and also a recipient of the John Humphrey Center for Peace and Human Rights Humanitarian Award. She is also a mom to a 9-year-old son who, funnily enough, calls her daddy. It is my honor to introduce to you Marni Panas. Welcome to the show, Marnie, and thanks for being here.
Well, thanks everybody.
We owe you a Tim Hortons coffee for this, and only Canadians will know what that is.
Yeah, really.
So, let's get started with hot flashes, everybody.
Oh, quick question or quick statement.
Yes.
Last week it got a little bit confused. We are having our live chat not through here. We're going to have it on the Qualk Show's Facebook page, our live page. Type in the Qualk book. It should look like. Where's my camera?
Not
it should
the
look
Qualk
like
book,
that.
the Qualk Show on Facebook, right?
Yep. Like the Qualk
Qualk
Show,
Show.
that's where we're having our conversation, and we love to hear from you throughout the show. We will shout you out, so don't say anything unless you want me to
If you
repeat.
have a question for us or for our guest, or you want to condemn us or congratulate us, log on and tell us how you feel there. So Ellen Whitlinger is quoted as saying, "You can only lie about who you are for so long without going crazy." My question to the panel is it really that hard hiding who you are? Sin, let's start with you.
It was hard for me to hide who I was. For a long time, it was pretty easy, but it was hard for me. I didn't come out until I was 27. I was very uber feminine. I used to sell Mary Kay.
Did you have a pink Cadillac?
I did not get that far, no. But, I was a part of a really conservative Christian church. I got married really young, had 2 kids. All the while, since I was in kindergarten, I knew I was attracted to women. So I was hiding behind this shell of what everyone expected of me and hoping that if I just was good enough and I just pretended long enough that everything would be okay. But doing that can make someone so miserable. I was nearly suicidal by the end of that. Not nearly suicidal, I should say. I was suicidal by the end of that. I'm really lucky to be alive. But I think being my authentic self, my really too tall, kind of masculine, but still all woman self. And letting myself be that has really allowed me to be happy and healthy and things like that. Now I really can't hide who I am. I'm me. Everybody knows who I am.
That haircut is
Who
not
me.
hiding anything, Sin. I think everyone knows that.
No.
I think everyone knows you
no.
like women.
Yeah, I like the ladies. And there's no reason to hide that. And my wife is wonderful. And your family, how they deal with it is their issue. But I think that in the long run, I am always better off being my authentic self than trying to be what other people need me to be.
For sure. What's your take on that, Marni?
Are you off to me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love to hear your take on it.
I'm often told when I'm out speaking out publicly, wow, you're so brave, you're so courageous, and I suppose there's some truth to that, but honestly, the courage came in the first 42 years of life when I was hiding it. That's when you're brave, that's when you're courage. This is the easy part. Living now truly is the easy part, and I think I didn't know how hard it was until I came out, because really now, life is just so much easier that I can just live and I really don't care. And I think I don't have to work so hard at being me, the me that I want to be, and not the me that everybody else expects me to be.
100%. I agree. I think staying closeted, you do that because you're so scared of how society is going to judge you and all that stuff. But the biggest thing is how your friends and family, I think, are going to accept you, as far as I'm concerned. Once I came out to my friends and family and got acceptance there, I really could care less what the rest of society thinks about me. And so I get that, once you come out, that's when you get brave. That's when life gets good. And I mean, I asked this question kind of tongue-in-cheek because, of course, it's hard to hide who you are. That's why the youth suicide rate amongst LGBTQIA people is so high, is because people are hiding themselves. They're hiding from their families. They're not being their authentic selves. And that will eat at you every day until you accept who you are. What do you think, Heidi?
I think that for myself personally, it was not hard to hide who I was until I came out and then tried to be let me break it down. I worked for a little bit for a religious institution that is kind of infamous for their discrimination against the LGBTQ community.
But that'd be the one my family belongs to.
You can't
that very same one, exactly. So much what you said. So
Hi,
much what
family,
you said,
love you.
and I resonate so much with my own experience. But I was out and unabashedly in your face out for quite some time. Moved to the community where I am now. A little bit harder to find work, just period.
There's no work here, anybody, for gays or straight, or anybody in the LGBT.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter where you fall on the spectrum. Yeah. It's hard to find work here. But I was given this really incredible opportunity, but it was for this religious organization, and all of a sudden I had to pretend that my fiance, who, God bless her, has a gender-neutral name, so I could talk about her. I just had to make sure that I was careful about the pronouns. And I was good until one day the assistant pastor saw me walking hand in hand with her in a neighboring city's farmer's market, and my entire therapeutic program was shut down within a few weeks after that. It was really quite terrible. But I'll tell you, I promised myself then and there I would never work anywhere in the closet again. It makes you shameful.
Are you making fun of me because I'm in the closet?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I would never.
Get out of the closet, Stephanie. Come on.
Stephanie, yours looks more like a pantry than a closet.
Thank you. We've had this debate on the show.
I wish I had this time when you had that argument with you on this show.
I love it. Let's move on. Leah Rader wrote in her book, "Not a boy or a girl, not any binary, rigid definition of a person, just my everything." Have you ever been attracted to someone that wasn't in your norm?
I'll take that one.
Take it.
So I, growing up, always thought long-haired men were gorgeous. Turns out it's because I like women. That's why I like long-haired men. Then I always thought it was like that. Even the women, the more butch and dark features, and totally thought that was attractive. The first two people I dated were both redheads. Odd. Yeah, redhead, pale. I married a redhead. We're no longer together. Still like her though. She's cool. We're just not together.
If she
And then when I got
black, would you guys have stayed together?
no,
Okay.
can't change some of those things with some bottles.
Exactly.
But when I met my fiance, she is biracial. She's African American. She has sleeve tattoos and she has braid cornrows. And everybody who I see says, "I would have never thought you would have been together. You work, but I would have never seen that." And so society thinks that it's weird for us to be together, but it works for me.
Yeah.
My wife is also completely different than anyone I dated previously. I was always into kind of really artsy, really wild, outgoing kind of folks. And my wife, she's outgoing, but she's so much more reserved and grounded and focused, and that's what works for me.
I feel like that's what you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I definitely have a type. If you look back at all of my girlfriends, it may be hard to tell some of them apart. But you know, I think the biggest thing for me is it's not so much looks, it's personality. I have an in-your-face personality, and I need to be with someone who can, you know, play sidekick, I guess, to my kind of public persona, I guess. And so, you know, I have dated people in the past where there was a conflict because they felt I was too much of an attention getter and things of that nature, and it caused so much conflict. And I'm like, dude, this is who I am. Like, I'm actually toning it down for you right now. So, you know, I think for me, it's not so much about a look, it's more a personality that I need to kind of be with, to work with. Marni, I know you've been married a very long time, so it's kind of an unfair question to ask you, but, you know, did you ever date outside of what you would consider your, you know, normal?
Well, I don't think I ever had a normal, but then now that I'm reflecting on this, the 4 girlfriends I had before I married my wife were all blonde, and my wife is an amazing, beautiful blonde, so I guess now I do have a normal.
You do have a type.
But it's funny because when my wife and I are together, I can't think of anybody else but my wife and how perfect she is for me. So I guess she's my norm, if anything, right? But yet I've been very much attracted to people of all genders. And I think you're right, Carol. It's how they make me feel and the personality that they have. And when two people come together that make each other better, then the rest really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Steph, do you have a type?
I like everybody. I like anybody that is cool, that makes me laugh, that lets me be me. I'm not describing my wife. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, it's funny because I totally have a type, and you know, usually, you know, it's so being a bisexual, you kind of, you know, I'm Kinsey scale right down the middle. So I like very masculine type guys. I like very feminine type women, and there's just no one in between I've ever been attracted to, believe it or not. I did try to date a butchy woman once, and she was crazy. So I just associate all butchy women as being nuts.
No, we're not all crazy, I promise.
Yeah, I went to this thing in 2007. I was like, you're cute, let's be friends. So everybody that I like made out with and dated that particular year was like United Nations. And then
colors of Benetton.
It totally was. And you know, while I still definitely have a female type and a male type, my wife definitely doesn't fit that well, I guess she's a little bit feminine, but you know, overall, like, she carried my children. You look at her, she thinks she's feminine, but she's kind of like the dude in our relationship, if you want to call it, you know, masculine energy. And
outwards appearances can be very, very wrong, you know.
Oh, my wife looks nothing like what I've always been attracted to. Absolutely, and I couldn't be happier.
So wait, we all married the girl we didn't think we were going to marry.
And she has always been attracted to super, super feminine women, and I'm not that. But we're good together. It works.
Yep, for sure. You can't. There's no accounting for what works and what doesn't. It either does or it doesn't. I.W. Gregorio states, "That was when I realized that life was a multiple choice test with only two answers, male and female, and I was none of the above." Is the male-female titles old school at this point with gender fluidity and, you know, the transgender community and such? Do your genitalia still define you at all?
Are you laughing?
You look like you might have something to say.
Well, I think masculinity and femininity apply because everybody has various degrees of those characteristics one way or the other. So I think that feeds into it. But yeah, I'm the person that will tell you straight out that genitals don't matter outside of the bedroom, right?
Yes.
Clearly, it makes a difference, perhaps to an intimate relationship, of course. But that's really, it is only between my wife and I and my doctor and I.
Yeah, 100%.
That's one question I hate, and I get it all the time, I'm sure everybody else. So, okay, so with you both, who's the man in the relationship?
Stop
None of us.
asking that question.
We're both women, so thanks for playing.
Yeah. Well, and again, and that comes into, like I said, you know, looks can be deceiving. On the outside, I'm, you know, more butch than my girlfriend, but she's got a bigger tool belt than I do, I guarantee. And you know,
well, and the thing is, gender isn't really a binary, right? It's a spectrum, just like sexuality. There's people at this end, and there's people at this end, and there's folks like me who are really kind of somewhere in between there, right? Yeah. I don't wear lipstick. I'm not going to put on heels or a dress, but I still consider myself a woman. So what am I? You know?
I think that
you're the way you are.
You're whoever you say you are, and that's got to be good enough for everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah, unless I'm trying to use the bathroom.
Well, we're going to get into that for sure. Why don't we just go there right now? So, you know, we have been all shocked and dismayed with the North Carolina bill that came out about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago at this point, that, you know, to me has seemingly set back transgender issues at least 10 years. This bill was introduced as part of the Public Facilities Privacy and Security Act. And my question tonight for the panel is two-part. First of all, I'd really like someone to explain to me whose privacy is being invaded and whose security is in question to have this bill passed. And secondly, I'd like to find out, especially from Marni, as a transgender woman, what are the effects that you are feeling due to this bill? Yeah,
and I think the first thing is whose privacy is being violated? Mine. Whose security is being violated? Mine, because I'm at more at risk in these bathrooms than everybody else. And I think that's something that we need to really remember. And I don't know if we've set back transgender rights 10 years. I think we've sent it back about to the 40s and 50s when we had colored washrooms. That's where this is going back to, which is absolutely ridiculous. And how has it affected me? You know what, today I was out for a run and I was thinking about today's show, and it reminded me that, oddly enough, ironically, I found the place in this world where I finally found the strength and the courage to finally utter the words for the first time ever, "I am transgender," was in Durham, North Carolina.
Wow. How's that?
Wow.
In 2012. And I remember that visit to North Carolina, and I remember at the time my friends would, when we would go out for dinner, they would phone ahead to the restaurant just to see if it would be safe for me. And that was the first time I ever had to think about that, and it just shocked me because I never really thought of it since then until now, and now I get it. And this was 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe that was that much in the recent past, right?
Yes.
But as an American, I totally believe that.
We have a question on our Qualk Show page for Marni, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Adria Bartash, who is actually Stephanie's wife, wants to know, Marni, do you worry about your safety more now, even though you're not in North Carolina after this new law?
Yeah, we're in Alberta, in Edmonton, Alberta, and generally it's probably one of the safest cities in the world to be trans. I just generally feel that way. I think a lot of people would agree. But we've had also a lot of negativity in this province recently with some school board issues and a lot of laws that have been passed, really good laws. But with recognizing rights comes a big group of people who see that as taking away their rights. So of course there's that backlash. But we are definitely, that backlash is fueled by the rhetoric that we hear out of North Carolina. We are not we're not in a silo here. We are pretty much a global community, and we are affected by those things. Yeah. And so I think I probably feel less safe just overall in general as a trans woman in the last 3 or 4 months than I ever have in my life. And it has nothing to do with where I live, which is generally because we travel a lot, and I don't even know where it's safe to travel anymore. And that's scary.
Yeah. For sure. And I mean, you have people like this this GOP candidate for chief of police out of Denton County, this idiot, Tracy Murphy, not to give him a shout out, maybe he's got some issues because he has a girl's name, but he'd, a quote is that he'd beat the hell out of a transgender person who tried to pee in a bathroom where his daughter was peeing. Why are people like this not being arrested for inciting violence?
Because it's Texas.
Yep. Right.
And that is just the common societal values that a lot of people hold in some of these states. That's why, because they support that. And it's great to see in a place like North Carolina, though, where they have their attorney general who says, I'm not going to fight this. This law is wrong. And so you have people like that. And I think where we're different, where it is being fought, though, is in the corporations and in the artists. And, that's different than when we were even with gay rights 30 years ago, where it took a long time to get those allies on board. And those allies are there now. And that's the only way we're going to move this stuff forward because, frankly, there aren't many of us. We're less than 1% of the population. And we're getting killed and we're getting murdered. We're getting abused in rates higher than anybody else. We're getting tired and we're getting beat. And so we need these allies to speak up. So I think they are. I think we'll get there faster than other groups have, but good Lord, I hope nobody dies between now and then. And they are, actually.
Heidi has the stats on that. Heidi, what were you saying?
Yeah, I do, actually. It is absolutely shocking. A transgender or gender diverse person is being murdered in North America at a rate of 1 every 29 hours. And even though in the last 4 years, those murders that they know where the individual was murdered specifically because they're transgender, not one of them has been prosecuted as a hate crime.
Wow.
Even when they know the primary motivation is because that person is gender diverse. It is just, and there's discrimination even above and beyond that. There's 1 in 4 transgender persons are sexually or physically assaulted. 1 in 3 experience regular verbal harassment.
And that's only.
Go ahead.
And that's only if the police are reporting these things properly. In most cases, they're not. So I would expect those numbers to be quite a bit higher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, those are just the reported numbers, not the projected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's scary, scary stuff.
In 2015 in Canada, and we claim to be so much more tolerant and accepting, in 2015 in Canada, 1 in 10 transgender persons actually reported being denied medical care.
Well, the one thing I can personally say for our demographic, I don't know if you guys are familiar in Canada with the Victory Fund, but they are an organization that helps elevate gay and lesbian and other LGBTQ inclusive people to run for politics. And so they are a group that ensures that the brightest in our community will be pushed out, and, obviously at their will, not like, I want you to run for mayor. That pretty much supports them in the way that they should, so that they get people in our community in the right positions to make changes, to pass laws, to create bills that are going to create a safer environment for our entire demographic. And so I think that's important. That's something that's different about our community as a whole, is that I would say that we fight the good fight in an intelligent way. And so you hear statistics like that, and so I immediately get this like weird neck choking fear for the next generation, because what happens if people don't step up and try to change that? And so I feel very proud to be a part of a community that does elevate folks within, to encourage them to use their minds instead of their bodies and fight back, because it would be very easy to fall, into, other, I guess the way I want to say it is other groups would be very quick to use their hands instead of their minds. And so groups like the Victory Fund are elevating people within our community to make sure that the future generation isn't going to have to put up with as much as we are. So it's a shame that we're at that, a point specifically within the trans community. But I'm hoping that fear that I feel as a mother and as a human being will go away if the amount of people that need to step up, run for these offices, and change these laws.
Yeah.
And not only important is it for us to run for office, and I'm not so sure I would, although I've been asked many times, a lot of skeletons in my closet from my drag queen days, but a whole other show could go to that one.
And we'll have you back to discuss it.
But what's more important, I think, is not even being involved in the decision-making, although I think that's absolutely necessary because you have a Senate, you have legislatures which are primarily filled with 50-year-old white guys, and which is fine, but we need more other people in there. But the other thing that's really important when you have people in those roles is the visibility. And when you have leaders who are trans and only trans, openly LGBTQ, when you have CEOs, when you have business managers, when you have bankers, when you have people in the media that are visible, that's what shifts culture in a way that it gives hope to those young people. It tells parents, okay, this isn't a death sentence. My child too can achieve all the things I would want, irregardless of their gender identity or sexuality. That's even more powerful than being able to change a law. It's just having that kind of visibility.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's your take on it, Sin? I know that you're up on all these stats, and you and I were discussing the fact that trans women are being murdered at an alarming rate, and that was something that was concerning to everyone, but particularly is something that you brought up.
Well, I brought it up because I think a lot of times, the LBGT community does not always like to include the T, and it's not fair. I think that a lot of us, a lot of lesbian and gay and bisexual people actually discriminate against trans people. I've seen hate speech on pages on Facebook devoted to the queer community. People afraid of going to the bathroom and things, and it's sick and it's wrong. And we need to stand by and support each other and hold each other up and not separate each other into little boxes and things. I think it's important.
No, I completely agree.
It's very easy for the community to rest on our laurels when after marriage equality came into play, but equality only applies to a certain few letters of that alphabet. There's still lots that are forward, and we can't forget those that are left behind. And the other part about the T in that alphabet is that there are much fewer of us, and we can't do it by ourselves. We can't, and yet we are at more risk than any of the other letters, and we cannot do this by ourselves. We're getting tired and beat up.
Well, and
Go ahead, Hallie.
The thing that's really also terrible about this bill is it's bringing it to light in all areas. I look very feminine. I am very feminine. I dress it. I walk it. I talk it. My fiance is very androgynous, and you can't really tell. And everywhere that we go now, we were at Toys R Us earlier, and I went into the restroom with her because it's now become super awkward everywhere that we go of what bathroom she goes into. And if there's not a family bathroom where it's just a single stall situation, she is uncomfortable, and she doesn't like to get the looks. Though they happen now with this law, or now with this, even though it's on the opposite side of the country, it's still, everybody's now just, the boogeyman's out to get me, they're going to look and touch my kids. No.
So do you think, Marni, that people are getting more on board now, maybe because it's affecting them, or do you feel supported as a trans woman by the rest of the LGBTQIA community, or does it take it happening to you before you get involved?
Yeah, I actually see that because there's a video going around today about a cisgender woman that's being kicked out of a North Carolina washroom by the police. And now all of my cisgender friends on Facebook are just appalled that this could happen, and which just sad for me because it seems like trans lives matter really only to those that are dying, and that's the trans people, right? Yeah. And so there's part of me that's a bit cynical, saying, okay, now you're paying attention because this affects you. But to be fair, unless you really appreciate and understand how this can affect you, now you can see what we live with every single day. Yeah. So it's necessary, and it's necessary that people experience it to feel that, and I get that. The other part about being supported by the LGBT community. We're in Edmonton, and Edmonton is a fairly small city compared to a lot of the other cities in North America, and we're generally a bit more isolated. Like, we're a 3-hour drive from the next major city. And so our community in itself, we're not nearly as fragmented because by default we have to be there for each other. The leather community, the lesbian community, the gay community, the transgender community, we're not very huge, so we intersect on many occasions. And I think just by our geographical nature, we're there for each other. So locally, I can say that we're very supportive of each other, and I'm very grateful for that. And I think that's part of the reason why I said earlier that we feel safer in Edmonton than in most places. But you look at a Vancouver, a Toronto, New York, and it's very easy to forget about the T. And one good example, I got into a big fight with our Tories in Canada, which is our conservative, federal conservatives. I can't imagine being in a fight.
That's so hard to believe.
I know. But they have this LGBTQ resource group, you know, where the gay conservatives get together, and they called it LGBT Tory. Not LGBT Tory, but LGBT Tory.
So they
erased the T.
Wow.
Completely erased the T. And they're like, oh no, we're just doing a play on words. I'm like, yeah, idiots. When you play on words, you basically erased us from existence, and you're doing this thing that we've always heard of. So what the T means is Tory, not trans. And they don't even understand how that's a problem. So it's those moments that I just shake my head.
Marni, I have a question for you. So when we launched the Qualk show, we all had an open discussion privately before we went, live, and we kind of argued about to call ourselves the Qualk show because queer spectrum, the word queer over, our long history, is a derogatory meaning. But the younger generations, they're using queer like crazy, and so queer spectrum does seem to be the most encompassing term, so that we don't segregate anyone within our community, so that we can bridge the gap, overall, and at some point just be who we are. Do you think that queer spectrum feels more encompassing than, utilizing LGBTQ, PRSTUV, and then crossing over to like a heterosexual norm and then confusing it even more and not understanding the differentiations?
I think there's something to that. I think queer, as the definitions start to come out, because not everybody understands what that means. And I know there are people in an older generation in my community that do not absolutely like that word whatsoever. So I'm also very respectful of that, and I would never use it to identify them or anybody. So we have to remember that part of it. So I'm good with that. What I find when I'm doing a lot of my education, the first thing people ask for, especially in the straight community, is what does queer mean? And so I don't think we're there yet to be able to include it all-encompassing, because not everybody's kind of gets it there yet. And to some point, I'm also worried about, yes, it is inclusive, but sometimes we need to name the T. We need to name the pansexual. We need to name the bisexual, right? So I don't want to lose those identities, because sometimes they need to be named or they're too easily forgotten. On the other hand, we're a queer family. We're same-sex, transgender. My son calls me daddy. We're all over the place, and I'm fine being a queer family too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lately, I've heard a new term being used. GSM, gender sexual minority. And again, it's a bigger box, is all it is. It includes more people. But you were right. We all have our individual identities and sexualities and genders within that box.
Mm-hmm.
What I like about
when I'm teaching in healthcare, I'll just say gender and sexual diversity. I won't even call it a minority, because I think we all fit into that spectrum in some way.
You're so right with that statement, Marni. That just totally rang true with me. Go ahead, Heidi.
I was saying one thing I appreciate about using the letters as opposed to queer too is that sometimes the transgender community gets confused with sexual orientation. I'm not saying this right, but like lesbian and gay is a sexual orientation, whereas transgender is a gender. And I think that so many people out there that aren't as familiar with our communities can automatically associates a non-heterosexuality to transgendered persons, and so I think I like having the T separate to differentiate it on a gender spectrum.
Well, it's funny you say that, it does make sense, Heidi, but we do that to ourselves even in our own community. I think for a while in our Pride Festival, our application form says, do you identify with a G, L, B, or T? I'm like, I'm more than one of those.
Right.
You circle. You circle the page.
I could be.
You circle the entire page, put a check mark.
I'm transgender and lesbian or whatever,
Yeah.
you know. So it's
Yeah.
I'm not either or. Those are two completely different.
It needs to be a write-in.
That's apples and oranges.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
No, that's a great point. Shout out to Target.
Yes.
Check out Hallie's blog about Target.
I'm obsessed.
What were you saying, Hallie, about the fact that people are boycotting the Targets now due to this?
People are so stupid. There is gosh, put me on the spot. I think it's a religious rights group. I want to make sure that I call out specifically who it is. But basically, there's a group of people.
It's the one that that Josh Duggar used to work for.
Oh, good lord.
Oh, quality people.
Enough said. Enough said.
Yeah.
They have.
Guess
they
what?
have,
You're queer too now, buddy.
So what has happened is they have gotten together and they have 500,000 people that said they will boycott Target if Target continues with their terrible rules to allow people to use the bathroom that they associate with, customers and employees alike. I love Target because they stand for what they stand for. It means that I don't have to shop with those stupid assholes. And I'm all for it. If those
stuff for us.
Yay! Retail therapy is my favorite.
That's so true, though. But now I have a safe place to pee because all of those nutcases aren't going to be there. I'm good with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Find a Target. They're everywhere.
Exactly, 100%.
I'm going to ask you an American question. Do you have Target in Canada?
They don't.
Well,
Not anymore.
They opened up and then they all shut down. But
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
yeah, but
I could never live
Tim
there.
Hortons here in New England. They opened up and then shut down again.
yeah.
Wait,
They
do you have
actually took
Walmart?
We do
I
have
almost
Yeah,
had
we have
Tim Hortons
Walmart.
for a couple of years and then they all went away.
we do also have slave labor here in Canada, yes. No, all the Targets opened up and then they all shut back down. They took over all of the Zellers here. I don't know if you guys have Zellers in the States, but they took over pretty much all of the Zellers franchises. And but I was told by my American friends that and people that travel to America that our Targets weren't the same as the ones in the States. I didn't find the prices competitive or anything like that. But that's a story for another day. Pardon me?
I was just thinking about Target that I appreciate that they stood up and say, yeah, this is what we're doing. We are recognizing that you can do something that you've always been able to do. And but I do appreciate that big organizations are saying, you know, we're standing by this. We really don't care about what you think on this. We're going to respect something that, you know, people have always been able to do since trans people have been around, which has pretty much been forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
But
and I also
on behalf of the queer spectrum, I always feel like companies take the opportunity to market towards us because we just go, oh, we just love you so much because you care about us. And then I sit back from a PR perspective, I'm like, that was fucking genius.
I will drink the Kool-Aid all day because I can get happy anniversary from wife to wife cards. I
That's
can
Hallmark,
Target's
though.
had that
That's
for
Hallmark.
some time now, I've noticed. I've gone to Target to get wedding cards for my friends because they've had good wedding and anniversary cards that are gender, same gendered and stuff.
Yeah, I don't
So
think we have
Target,
that
if you
yet.
want to sponsor us, call us at qualkshow@gmail.com.
Exactly.
Hey, Sin,
We love you.
Sin, can you relate to this, having grown up also in a fundamentally religious family? Do you remember when you were younger and your parents would say, like, oh, we'll go to that dentist because he's the Christian one? Or we'll shop at that store because that's the Christian one.
My
This is what it
family's
reminds me a little of. Like,
complicated. I was actually, up until I was a teenager, I was with my family, but they weren't fundamentally religious yet. They were just Catholic. And then
That's the same
after
thing.
I was placed in foster care, they became very, very religious after that. So.
Okay. It's just what I remember growing up with. We would go to the restaurants where, like, oh, the chef there is Christian. You know, he's a Christian boy. He goes to the Alliance Church.
My family is there are some family members I have right now that are inordinately terrified that pedophiles can now use bathrooms for some strange reason.
That was actually going to be my next statement. Please, someone give me the stats on that.
I don't understand. And now they'll say that, you know, I remind them that transgender people have been using the bathrooms with them for their entire lives, and they never had an issue until now. Never. Yeah. And Target suddenly says it's okay. And now they think that people are going to use this opportunity to like get dressed in costumes and come do crazy things to people. And
we can thank Ted Cruz
nothing
for that.
was stopping pedophiles from sneaking. Nothing was stopping pedophiles from sneaking into the bathroom 2 weeks ago.
And the thing is,
you know, there's a sign on the door that says male or female, and there are laws about it, and there are cameras and things. And people who are going to do bad things are going to do them, and it has nothing to do with allowing transgender people into bathrooms.
Yeah. No, and that's so true. And we know that the stats on predatory behavior are typically like 90% of the time somebody you know, and it's not happening in a washroom period anyway. Yeah. And the fact is, if you're really
it's usually a white middle-aged church guy.
It really is.
If you're truly concerned about the safety of women and children in bathrooms, don't stop transgender people from going in there. Stop Republicans from going in there.
Exactly.
I love you.
Exactly. And like the one case that they keep quoting was from like 2013 of a gentleman going into the changing room and taking pictures of people. It was a gentleman. It was a cisgendered man. It was not a trans person. He wasn't pretending to be a trans person. So
which has always been illegal.
Right. It's always been illegal to take pictures of your children while they're in the bathroom with, so, you know.
I realize we do have a different culture here in Canada than U.S. because there's always one thing that concerns me, that everybody, or people in the U.S. are more concerned about the dangers of trans kids in schools, but have no problem suggesting that guns are safer in schools.
Well, yeah.
That I cannot figure out.
Yeah.
Well, that's America for you.
Yes, save the children, keep them safe in the bathroom, but if they're walking down the street and get shot, that's, you know, their parents should have had a gun with them too. Right.
Oh, not walking down the street.
This is part of what this whole have to save the children, have to do it, somebody think of the children, holds no wash with me, because if you look at it, if you're truly concerned with your children, what gender is most responsible for harming your little boys? And you've been sending your son into the bathroom with them his whole life without these kind of arguments. This whole someone think of the children thing is just bullshit. And people who are using that have got to stop and start owning the hatred and the propaganda that they're putting out there, because you are killing our transgendered brothers and sisters, and it's not right.
Preach it. Preach it.
Yeah. Preach it.
Yeah, 100%.
Amen.
100%. You know, let's end this discussion today and you know, with something positive, and I'm going to direct this to you, Marni, which is, you know, what can we do, not only as an LGBTQIA community, but as society in general, to help? Like, what can we do to change the tides back to where they were before this bill came out?
And even a lot further is to continue standing up to the hatred. When we are silent, when other people are being bullied, when other people are being picked on, when other people are harassed, silence, if we stay silent, that's condoning behavior, and that's normalizing behavior. So we have to stand up, and we will get there. We have to create opportunities to have dialogue. We have to create opportunities to have education, and do so in a very productive way. And these conversations like we're having today are happening, and I do have hope, and I want to leave you with this. This is a really positive thing. I'm at our hospital on Wednesday night, and I'm teaching a prenatal class. And in my class was the same
by
sex.
the way.
I know, right?
Love it.
But in my class is a lesbian couple, and so here's a trans woman talking about breastfeeding to lesbian women couple and with a whole bunch of other couples. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I love my life right now. But that's truly a sign of where we can be, and it didn't matter to anybody. I thought it was just a beautiful moment.
That is beautiful.
So we can get there. We will get there.
Yeah,
Shout out Capitol Health.
I think I've heard you say before, Marni, this is just like, you know, the last kicking and screaming pains of society trying to change, right?
Yeah, you know, and I look at civil rights fights in the past. When we talked about the civil rights movement of the United States, again, when their rights are recognized, because we don't give rights. People don't get more rights. They either have them or they're recognized or they don't. So when we recognize recognize people's rights, some people see that as their rights being taken away. And that's where the backlash comes in. So there's those 3 stages of civil rights movements where there's that awareness, which is what we're doing now, and then when rights are recognized, then that's the backlash, and then you get to acceptance. And so when you look at the civil rights movement in the United States, the most dangerous time for people of color in the United States wasn't the fight leading up to the vote, it was the year after the vote. In Canada, it was the same thing for women. It was the year after the vote that was more dangerous. Today, we're in that period of time where it's really, really dangerous for us because of those rights. But that tells me that we will get to the other side and acceptance will come. But we're in that moment.
Time for one more question. One of
let's do
question from Marni.
Let's do it if Marni's okay with it.
Are you okay with it?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you can answer this, but Chanel wants to know, Marni, that Chanel Boone says she's all about educating people if possible, and she tries not to meet ignorance with ignorance, but she's not sure how to approach this. How would you educate family members if there was a child in their young youth transitioning?
Great question.
Mm-hmm.
I would certainly, because I'm not the expert in everything, in all these things, so I would certainly provide them with a lot of resources. I would tell them the different connections that we have in our community. And to be quite honest, I get these questions every day from either siblings or youth or parents saying, this is our situation, what do we do now? But I also recognize that it really hurts when parents do reject. You know, I haven't seen my parents in 2 years since I told them that I'm trans. And I'm 44 years old, and I get it, and it hurts now. I can't imagine at 14. So really what I tell these parents is just, regardless of what you do, you know, you're going to go through grief. You're going to go through a grief of a loss of what you thought you might have for your future, but it doesn't mean that future of that child is bleak. It could be filled with complete happiness and a thriving, beautiful person, and to be open to that. And what's most important is you meet your child where they're at and that you love them. Just love them. The rest will happen. Just love them.
I love that. I love that.
I also told Chanel to tune into our Mother's Day show. We'll have the parrot of a trans person on.
Yeah, exactly.
And get more information about that.
And speaking of,
you can have me on for Father's Day.
Yeah,
there we go.
Great. You're invited.
You're very well invited, Marni.
Not one of us on this panel know what it's like to be a dad, so you were invited.
Yeah, you're definitely invited. So on that note, Marni, I hope that you can stay with us just for a little bit longer here. Let's move on with a little bit of a lighter take on the issues, one of the issues that presents itself to some transgender people that decide that they want to do that. And we're talking voice alteration today and some of the tips and tricks in getting your voice to sound more feminine. Again, if that's something you want to do. Not all trans people need to or feel they need to, feminize their voice on any level. So for those of you that want to, and if that's something that's important to you, we have a short snippet of a longer video from one of our show correspondents, Sarah, of the YouTube channel So Sarah, and then after we watch this 2-minute video, we will discuss with Marni some of the key areas to focus on when transitioning from male to female in this particular case.
I never did this before, so let's try
it.
Do
you have that video stuff? Let's roll it.
How I got my voice. Everybody wants to know how I did it. There's all kinds of different techniques. Some people do singing lessons. Some people can just watch a YouTube video and get it. I did a lot of different things. So you should probably do a lot of different things as well. If one that I really worked on because I loved her voice. It was perfect. She would bring her voice into falsetto, and falsetto is like Mickey Mouse. Ha ha! There's no bass in my voice. It's as high as it goes, and there's nothing, no bass, nothing. This is falsetto. So if you can speak like this, it gets your vocal cords and your muscles used to speaking in a high pitch. So I did that. And when I did that, my voice was still very male, so it was a different kind of falsetto. It was like on this side. Right now it is on this side. What she taught me was bring it up into the male falsetto, and then try and work to get it over here. A little lower, and a little lower, until you found where you were comfortable and where it sounded right for you. It didn't work amazingly for me. It got me there, got me in the mode, got my pitch. I could get my pitch up high, but pitch is not what it's all about, because you can have a very male-sounding voice with a high pitch. I can't even do that anymore. My voice has converted to this. I'm going to show you what I used to sound like, or at least close enough to it.
This? Oh, God. That was my old voice. Kinda. Not exactly, but this is what it was. So I'd have to go into falsetto. Oh God, I hate hearing this. I can't even do it. I can't even do it. This is my voice now. I'm comfortable doing it. So when you first start doing your techniques and you're practicing, it's going to feel awkward, it's going to be exhausting, it's not going to feel right, but you got to do it.
It's an amazing video. Sarah has a whole bunch of videos up there aimed at helping people that are transitioning and also, showing people, what it's like to go through some of the changes and paces and how there's a lot more that goes into transitioning than just, for lack of a better description, changing the way you dress or whatever the case may be. I mean, depending on how far you want to go with it. And again, some people don't feel the need to change their voice on any level, and that's fine too. What's your take on some of that, Marni?
Yeah, it's really timely because I actually had my first intake with my speech language pathologist just 3 days ago. So this is very timely with me right now. And for me, when you have the visual cues, when you look at me, I got my voice. I own whatever it is I got. I know people are going to figure it out, and I really don't care about that. I'm going to own it. But where I struggle is on the phone. And I had a conference call on Thursday with a whole bunch of people, senior leaders, executive leaders, everybody who knew my story except one person, and the one person kept referring to me as he and his. And it was just, and that person never met me. They don't know who I am. They've never seen me, which is fine. So I can't be angry at this person, but it's just another reminder that I don't fit into what society says a girl should even sound like. And so I don't want to change a lot, but I want to soften it for the phone so that hopefully one day somebody will assume I'm a girl and not a male. And I think, and I don't want to be fake about it. I want it to be a natural voice. I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, honestly, I'm just trying to explore it to see where is my comfort. And it's funny because she even works with how to cough, how to sneeze, how to make all those, because in a girl's washroom, if I have to sneeze or cough, I'm not doing any of that stuff, and I'm holding it and everything, right? So, because I'm usually pretty good until I talk, and that can cause me a challenge now and then. But that's my own stuff that I got to own at some point.
For sure.
I got to just own whatever I got.
Yeah. Well, let's end the show on that note today. I personally want to thank you, Marni, for not only taking part in tonight's show, but rushing in to be here with us at a not preordained time. I personally have found you to be so interesting, and I've learned so much from you in our meeting on Wednesday and on the live show today. And I want to thank you again for being here with us today. We hope to have you back in the future. And it was just an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. To our viewers out there, tune in next week. It's our Mother's Day special. Again, we're going to be discussing what would you do if you felt your child was on the queer spectrum in any way, shape, or form. We will also be celebrating all of the amazing moms out there that are doing it right, supporting their kids through anything in life. We're going to have a special guest, Sarah, that we spoke about tonight of the YouTube channel So Sarah, and her mom, Jackie, on the show to talk about, what their experience has been going through this together as mother and a transgender daughter. We will also have a little bit of fun next week, showcasing some of the weird and wonderful things that our kids have made for us for Mother's Day. I myself have a 4.5-month-old, so the only thing she's made for me is a diaper. So I don't really have anything to add to that. So I hope that you guys will be able to bring on all of your kids' stuff. We're going to pick up our glasses now as we like to cheers at the end of the show. And here's to being different and yet all the same, whoever you are and whoever you love. Thanks for joining us, and remember, there's always something to quack about. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Bye.
Love ya. Bye.